South Sudan, formerly called the Republic of South Sudan, is a landlocked United States in East Central Africa. It is bordered by Ethiopia to the east, Sudan to the north, the Central African Republic to the west, the Democratic Republic of the Congo to the southwest, Uganda to the south, and Kenya to the southeast. It is made up of 11.6 million inhabitants, of which 525,953 are within the capital and the biggest metropolis called Juba. The populace of South Sudan consists specifically of the Nilotic people, with approximately half of its population beneath the ages of 18. Despite the fact that everybody concurs that the three essential religions in South Sudan are conventional African religion, Christianity, and Islam. In a speech at St. Teresa's Cathedral in Juba, President Salva Kiir, a Catholic, stated that South Sudan might be a country that respects spiritual freedom. In 2019, it was discovered that the wide variety of Protestants in South Sudan outnumbered the Catholics. From respectable facts in Sudan, it was confirmed that a massive percentage of the people adhere to African faith, while 17% adhere strictly to Christianity. Most Christians are Catholics and Anglicans. Despite the fact that different denominations are also lively, the ideas of the conventional African faith are frequently blended with the Christian belief.
The main issue in the Sudan is religion, which brings in the factor of the system of governance, the imposition of Sharia law, which doesn't take into consideration the diversity in the country. The former Sudan has over 600 ethnic groups and sub-tribes, which makes it harder to impose a unified system, because there are Christians such as myself. I'm a Christian, and there are those who believe just in African traditions. So growing up there making it really hard. The only advantage I had, I went to a Catholic school from a younger age.
Barely 2 years after independence from Sudan, violence and war erupted and lingered for 57 months, rendering millions homeless, family displaced, and thousands of innocent civilians were sent to their early graves. The political struggle between Salva Kiir, president of South Sudan, and Riek Machar, then vice president, led to the Sudanese civil war that lasted between December 2013 and August 2018. Violence and attack broke out between Sudan People's Liberation Movement and Sudan People's Liberation Movement in opposition. The ethnic undertones of the fighting led to more violence in the war. According to Global Conflict Tracker, more than 400,000 casualties were reported and about 4 million people were internally displaced and rendered homeless. The civil war was a major blow to South Sudan as the war ate deep into the agricultural heartland, which led to a major food crisis. In 2014, the United Nations Security Council declared South Sudan's food crisis as the worst in the world. Cases of child soldier were also reported in South Sudanese civil war, with more than 17,000 children used in the conflict. Extreme starvation and sexual violence were also the major impact in the South Sudanese civil war.
South Sudan is a nation that emerged out of a conflict. There was a continuous strive or struggle with the fate of the Sudan, plus others who never wanted the independence of South Sudan. Therefore, this group were able to nurture rebellion, which is now South Sudan is struggling with. So it has gone to a vicious cycle.
South Sudan is not a stranger to severe rains and seasonal floods. However, this year's current flood has occurred for the third year in a row, marking a new era of climate-induced devastation. As of October 2021, approximately 623,000 people in 8 states have been affected, with 2/3 of them already experiencing severe food shortages, as well as overcrowded schools, homes, medical facilities, and local water supply.
In South Sudan nowadays, we experience excessive heat and heat waves, heavy rain. So the rain has been increasing for the last 3 years, and also the projection that it will get worse. And 90% of the country is sitting underwater, which is affecting the livelihood, especially women and children, and which will also affect the girls' education. We are working on building dikes. However, the quality of the dikes being built is out of mud or dirt. It washes or erodes away with the water. So there is a need to look into how we could modernize it, or addressing the issue of the flood from a scientific perspective. Gaining experience, for instance, from the Netherlands and other countries that are at the sea level to see how we could mitigate it.
Climate change is not only subjecting children to hunger and anguish, it is also displacing thousands of families and worsening the impact of violence. Many South Sudanese are living in a time that can be referred to as the Anthropocene. Humans have grown to be the most influential species on Earth, causing significant global warming and other changes in the land, environment, water, organisms, and the atmosphere. Agriculture, industrialization, deforestation, and pollution are all repercussions of man-made global warming in addition to changes in weather. Rather than continue to contemplate on our annihilation, contribute to it, or declare hopelessness in the face of it, we should at least try another approach, and this approach must exclude patriarchy in all its expressions and institutionalized forms of violence, dominance, exploitation, slavery, colonialism, profit, exclusion, monarchy, oligarchy, mafia, and religious war.
South Sudan has some of the worst health indicators in the world. In 2019, maternal mortality rate was estimated at 2,054 in every 100,000 live births. Girls are more likely to die in pregnancy or childbirth than complete primary school. According to UNICEF, just 9% of the South Sudanese births are actually attended to by skilled health professionals. The chronic conflict from the civil war has left the health system underdeveloped, with non-governmental organizations and faith-based organizations providing approximately 70% of the services. Can you speak on the nature of the healthcare situation in South Sudan?
It's fairly improving, given that we have development partners such as the United Kingdom, the US, and other international organizations, which is the UN bodies, complementing the government's efforts in terms of services delivery. We have South Sudanese medical professionals that are working in the country. In the beginning, before the crisis, basically, their wages used to be high. Then when the economy was getting weaker or poor, it led to many of them turning to private sector. So in terms of services, it's there, but then the quality of it will depend on the amount of money you can pay.
However, in May 2021, the UK cut funding that supports clinics nationwide in South Sudan by almost £7 million. As one of the major contributors to the triple colonialism of the country, the UK should be doubling down on its efforts to help the people of South Sudan. Instead, they're cutting its funding.
We look at it so unfriendly and so inhuman for any country to cut its aid at this particular time.
As a result, and in conjunction with the bad governance of the country, many of its citizens will continue to suffer from poor healthcare, extreme poverty, and the effects of horrible flooding. Besides the fact that the floodings are a major hindrance of humanitarian activities, they are also extremely harmful to the thousands of internally displaced people, especially children, as they are at high risk of developing waterborne diseases. Although the cases of coronavirus were relatively low in South Sudan, the pandemic affected the people in different ways.
Last year, we had to feed 5 million people due to fighting and flooding. Already in 2020, we've had locust invasions, and now there is the COVID-19 pandemic, which we predict could almost double the people in acute hunger by the end of 2020.
After independence from Sudan in 2011 has left South Sudanese women in a state of severe marginalization. In fact, Contrast Obiara have described the condition of the South Sudanese women and girls as laden with terrific vulnerability to all forms of abuse and violence, triggered and compounded by war and conflict, but especially patriarchal practices and norms. The insignificance of women in South Sudan is such that they are treated as property, and according to Ellsberg, they have no rights. The situation has perpetuated unequal and discriminatory relations where the male is accorded respect and assigned the prerogative of lordship over the female. A woman is seen as undeserving of education, especially because the average South Sudanese family believes that education decreases the bride price of the female child.
So girl child education in South Sudan is not affected by the system, but it's affected by the historical inheritance of the system that we have in the country. For instance, in the old Sudan, it is a patriarchal system where more emphasis is given to male in comparison to females.
Violence against women have engulfed the society so much that all forms of sexual violence are virtually regarded as normal occurrences in South Sudan. Additionally, acts of force and early marriage, wife inheritance, rape, intimate partner and domestic violence, among others, have become a customary act. The words of Earlsberg in 2017 encapsulates the condition of the South Sudan woman in that a girl child born in South Sudan is a born problem.